Moving on. I promise we will have plenty of time for questions. We don't have Chief Inspector Shoaib Chaudhry. He had mentioned he might be able to come, but we do have our South Trafford Inspector Steve Bryant to be here with us, and I will pass it over to you. Do you want to?
Brilliant. Okay. Thanks for coming. It's great to see you all down here. It's not great on the screen, so I do apologise what we have. So in terms of where we've been the last sort of 15, 16 months, obviously we've got a new Chief Constable. I've had the pleasure of meeting him on a number of occasions, and what's changed is we've got a very, very clear plan. And if ever you want to Google it and have a look at what the plan is, it's what we call the plan on a page, GMP plan on a page. It's available on the internet if you want to look at it. But very, very simply, it breaks down all of the main changes that we've had in the last 15 months into one very, very simple place. And everything that I've done, I've completely aligned my staff and my vision and my mindset to this plan. You know, and I do believe you wake up in the morning, you've got a plan for your day. You know, your day's probably a little bit better than having no plan at all. So that basically has underpinned a lot of the changes. And in 5 sort of key areas really, how we respond to incidents and emergencies. You know, we're now much quicker at arriving at grade 1 incidents within 15 minutes, grade 2 incidents within an hour, much quicker. And certainly my role sort of covering the response role as well as neighbourhood. I know we do that really well here in Trafford, one of the best in Greater Manchester. We also investigate and solve crime better than we were sort of 15, 18 months ago. Part of the problem previously was the computer system. You're all possibly aware we suddenly found a lot of crimes sitting in the system. Here in Trafford we've got about 2,100 live crimes that we're looking at the moment for the staff. We also, so in our role, prevent and reduce crime, harm and antisocial behaviour, and I'll give you some data on that shortly. We try our best to deliver an outstanding service, and like today, we try to build public trust and confidence with our communities, and also ourselves as well. You know, so we've got to believe in each other and work with each other, and that's really important. So, specific for my world, for the community world, and this is taken from that plan, the sort of 3 key areas really of how we strengthen our dedicated neighbourhood teams. That's making sure they've got the resources, the decision-making powers, local knowledge and a focus on partnership-based problem solving. We're really lucky, we've got Lindsay who works in our office within our team. Lindsay's one of our community safety officers from the council. Having Lindsay there is really reassuring for me. It gives me another set of eyes, another perspective. It's really important, and it shows that direct problem sort of partner approach that we've got locally. We also help to build resilient communities, and we do that through encouraging people to join the IAG, you know, and scrutinise what we do and how we do it. I'm attending PAC meetings and community meetings, and also having discussions with councillors and other elected members. And we do that supported by specialist capabilities. I've previously worked in Spec Ops. It's been brilliant over the last sort of few months to be able to engage them at the Altrincham interchange. You might have seen travel safe officers, transport unit officers. We've also had a traffic operation a few weeks ago when we had 16 cars out on patrol up and down Washway Road, where we got over 200 offences in a few hours of directed patrolling. So we are doing that plan, that is what we work towards. In the last 12 months, the data's slightly out now, but it sort of gives you a bit of an oversight in terms of what comes through the front door, as it were. There's roughly 12,000 incidents a year in South Trafford. That's this part of Trafford. It's 1,000 a month. It's a very small team. We see about 25-30% of those incidents locally. Most of those are done by a massive command centre now that will take crime reports over the phone, online, through web chat. The whole force contact now has been revolutionised by the chief. So a lot of the inquiry type work is picked up by inquiry specialists, which means cops can be cops and go to incidents and crimes, which I think is a really good thing. Overall, the role of a neighbourhood inspector is to try and reduce demand in our area. And we've done that in the backdrop of different ways in which people can contact us, phone, email, online, different ways in which you can tell us things. And we've seen a massive increase because we've become more accessible. And we've kept a sort of lid on it in the last 12 months after lockdown. We've kept the numbers about static. roughly those 12,000 incidents. Significantly, I know we were talking about ASB earlier, we've seen a 35% reduction in ASB in the area, which I think is something to be proud of, and that's something that hopefully Director Patrolling through the South Neighbourhood officers has really, really helped to see that change. We've seen about 251 less victims of crime in South Trafford, again, which I think is a good thing. We've got more repeat offenders that we're detecting. We know who we're looking for. We know who to sort of bring in and put these crimes to. And we've got less repeat victims of crime, because we're focusing on where we need to focus our resources and make sure they're kept safe. In terms of what we would call neighbourhood crime data, and that's the four sort of key categories of crime, that's burglary, robbery, theft from the person, and vehicle crime. I've got some numbers off what we call our weekly report. Our rolling average is roughly 54 crimes a week of those four categories. That's the lowest rate in Greater Manchester, which keeps me feeling safe. I also live in South Trafford, so that's a really, really good statistic. In terms of our burglary rolling average, in my area, burglary is my highest crime recorded, about 130, 140 in the last 3 months. About 20 a week across Trafford. We're the second lowest in Greater Manchester, but most of those offences are in this area. For robbery, we have an average of 4 a week across Trafford. That's the lowest in Greater Manchester. Theft from the person, 4 a week, again, the joint lowest in Greater Manchester. And for vehicle crime, that's all vehicle crime, 26 a week, the joint lowest in Greater Manchester. So we're all concerned, we all want a safer place, but Trafford is the safest place in Greater Manchester at the moment. In terms of outcomes, we see roughly an 8% solved outcome across all crime types, which again is comparable to other parts of Greater Manchester. We know better, we know worse, it's an average, but that's a much improved place from where we were sort of 18 months ago, when we're down at sort of 2.5–3%. It's a massive change, a massive increase. So in terms of how we try to prioritise, we have a plan. So we've got the big plan, we have the little localised plan. And that contains our local problem-solving initiatives. So I mentioned the interchange earlier, Alton Interchange is a problem for me. The retail part, Broadheath retail part, we see ASB, we see some traffic concerns there, and we also see shoplifting in the area. Like we do the Trafford Centre, it attracts people to go there and commit these types of offences. By having a plan and prioritising, it gives me the ability to make sure we staff the tasks more efficiently. We can engage with you through social media. We use Twitter and we use Facebook, and we've got one of the most active engagements with our local communities on our accounts. More people like and comment on our account than anywhere else in the force, which is really, really pleasing for me. In terms of reported incidents, one of the easiest ways outside of ringing us up and down in 999 is do it online. You can report most types of incidents. Pretty much everything is on the system. It's the easiest way to sit there over a cup of tea and really write down and report what you want to do. It saves you sitting on the phone if you don't need to do it, if it doesn't need us being there here and now. It's the easiest and quickest way to do it. You get a reference number and then somebody will be in touch in relation to that incident. And that's all types of incidents. So in terms of the future, as of the 6th of March next year, we've got a new neighbourhood model that we're bringing in. That's a slight shift in how we're going to work across South Trafford, which again should give us more coverage, and that will be aligned with a new response model, which will hopefully mean most incidents will be responded to even better than they are now, which again is an improvement. That the neighbourhood roles will see a professionalisation in that, I mentioned before, I'm an ex-traffic officer, so I've got to do certain things to do that, driving courses and different skills and abilities. We're doing the same in neighbourhood roles, problem solving, community engagement. There's a professional accreditation for the officers that will be working on the team. We're already holding a number of partner communities meetings. We've got one today, we've run a few more at the hub and other locations, and we'll do that again into the new year. We're trying to find improved methods of supporting victims. We've got support officers who look for repeat victims and work out how we can work through and support people much better. Developing more focused offender management. That means we know who we want to go for. We go out and people like Sergeant Mitchell and the team will go and kick the door in. And recently in Broadheath we recovered about £80,000 worth of drugs after a raid, and we publicise that on social media, bags and bags of drugs. So we know what's going on, and we'll kick the door in and we'll go and deal with it. And again, the Chief wants to make sure that staff and officers are well equipped to do their jobs. That means having newer cars, a new fleet of vehicles, and also a new uniform that's being rolled out at the moment. So, people sometimes ask me how you can get in touch. There is an email address you can contact the team on if you want to take that down. That's the easiest way. We're not in 24/7. I will repeat that if you want to report an incident that's happening now, obviously ring us up, 999 if it's urgent, 101 if it's not urgent. If you want to contact our team, there's an email address. Otherwise, do it online. You know, you can contact you and you can ask that it comes through to the team. It's another way in which we'll get an email and we'll come back to you and respond to that. I'm mindful I've only got 10-15 minutes. I could talk all day about what we do. Have you got any questions for me directly? Is now the right time for you?
What I'll do is I'll just go through some of the questions that have already been
Okay,
made,
yeah.
and then we divide the questions between two sessions.
Okay.
Is that okay? So,
Right, okay. So, again, I think we spoke about this a couple of times, but I've left it in because I know we wanted to take it off. So we are seeing, you did show us some stats around the number of burglaries and all of the other crimes. How many arrests were made, and also how many of them led to incidents?
Yeah, so I mean, as I say, in terms of burglaries, we have that conversion rate of roughly 8% of offences are detected. For burglaries specifically, we're about 2%. About 15-18 months ago, it was really low, as it was in other areas. So we're sort of 4 times better than we were. Obviously, Greater Manchester has been sending an officer to every burglary for the last year anyway. Other forces have now been told to do that. The team have been brilliant in the way in which we respond. We cocoon an address to where we get a burglary. We go to all the other properties nearby. We'll look for doorbell footage, CCTV footage, any witnesses. We'll make people aware. We might even take out Faraday bags or other things depending on what's been going on. Sentencing, not for me, it's for the courts, I'm afraid. So again, we would love to see tougher sentences. And in terms of other actions, I mean, we've done crime stands at the Asda, at Booths, at Tesco's. We've got more and more crime pop-up stands to help people be informed about problems. We're doing a massive campaign on social media around burglary and on sort of the winter nights, the darker night sorts of problems. So there's lots and lots of work, and we will also react to specific incidents as well in terms of if we have an odd incident or one that's that will concern the community, we'll come out and engage directly, and you'll see reassurance patrols and things at that time.
Okay, all right. Now the second thing is about seeing more officers on the streets, in neighbourhoods, especially if there are some specific hotspots where there has been trouble, having more PCSOs and police on beat. So in Borden Hill, we did see quite a few of them walking around, but we haven't seen a lot of presence. I think Hill still you can see a policeman every now and then outside Tesco, but in the Borden area, and perhaps this side as well, we haven't seen a lot of officers patrolling streets. So is that something you think is happening and is sufficient, or are you open to more of that happening?
I think if there's a specific problem, obviously invite us down, and in most cases I think a PCSO will come and attend. Generally speaking, we kind of know where our problem areas are in South Trafford. We use the data, we trust the data, we believe in the data now, and then we'll put resources where we feel we're going to get the most benefit from that. So if we know, for example, we've got issues near to the retail park in specific roads, we'll put resources there at the times. So we're quite sort of data-led, and that's really, really important. I know the Met were talking about, Sir Lawrence Sherman, he's a professor of criminology, and he's advising the Met on this sort of work. It's called evidence-based policing. You're lucky, I've done a course on it, I know all about it, I know the data, I love data, and I'll put people exactly where they need to be at the right time, and that's why we've seen benefits of reduction in ASP and those sorts of problems.
Okay, all right. But yes, there are hotspots, but I think another thing which would be nice is if you have PCSOs, randomly walking streets in the areas. There doesn't have to be trouble, but why have that trouble anyways? So it's nice if randomly, through the week we can have that visual presence of officers. It is quite reassuring.
Yeah. And again, all I can say is I also live in the area, and I know if I go out, I'm going to go out shortly, when I go out and about, I very rarely see a police officer. But I do know, because I sit in the office, that the officers have been out. And what I try and encourage again is to say where they are on social media. I'm really big on saying, look, if you're out in Hale, post it. If you're out in Salemore, post it. And then that way we've got an electronic record of where we've been. If we've got problems at Mornwood Park, we've gone to Mornwood Park because you've told us we've got problems. So again, if you tell us, then we'll try and respond and we'll go there. And normally there'll be a Facebook post from the officers to say, we've been there in response to your concerns. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think that's really, really important that we show that we're listening, to what the communities are asking us to do.
Okay, thank you. Now we are obviously approaching winter and it's longer dark days. So we have that concern with children walking back from school, even adults, crossing parks, walking back on slightly, lonely streets. What advice would you give them on how to keep themselves safe?
I think for myself, I wear dark clothing, and a lot of people will wear dark clothing. Looking around the room, and a lot of people are wearing dark clothing, and it's a sort of style and fashion that we've all sort of become accustomed to. From a parent's point of view, I'd certainly much rather see children in brighter clothing, red jackets, something that's going to catch the light, even something with a reflective strip. I've mentioned I'm a traffic officer. There's nothing worse than driving down a road and seeing kids and young people in dark clothing, especially at the night time, because they're invisible, and it can cause problems for them mainly, but also for drivers who report concerns. So I think it's how we can dress our kids, and we can all be mindful as well. I've seen joggers running around with lights on, which alerts people. I saw a lady on a bicycle the other day who had like blue flashing lights on her arms, which was different, but I couldn't miss her. So it was really, really important. So it's really for people to encourage each other to be safe and to encourage our families to sort of be safe as well, and certainly for children. I know you don't ask me a question, so go on.
When I was a kid, there was like a hedgehog thing at school that was like stay safe, stay alive, and they gave reflective things out for your bags and stuff, and like newsletters for parents for basic common sense things like this now. Will there be any of that again?
There are some armbands I can see there for young people.
I mean, like within the schools, like partnering up with the schools to tell the parents for kids at schools, things like that.
Yeah.
Go where the crossing is. Don't stand behind a tree where you're not going to be seen.
Yeah.
That kind of side of it. There was that when I was a kid. Is there any of that stuff
So
planned?
a couple of things. We've had some schools contact us about concerns at drop off and pick up. I know we've been out this week and we've done some work around identifying drivers who choose to ignore the advice that the right to them out. So I know we've got that. I also know that we've refreshed what we call the junior PCSO thing. That's where we go to a school and teachers and children become part of sort of a small uniform sort of challenging behaviours around schools. I don't know if Lindsay's got anything else from a community safety point of view about children and safety.
Yeah, so we do have a project manager who I'll speak about later on, who actually is employed to go into schools and set up projects such as the walking bus with schools, encouraging children and parents to walk with the children to school and leave the car at home. But we do also have a PC who goes regularly into schools to do, security topics such as internet safety. So I think, the point there is really valuable if we can take that back to Lorraine and trying to incorporate that message into schools. Really good.
I think I'd invite you just to contact us, and then if we can't come out to everybody, but if you contact us, you'll get a response. I'll guarantee that. And we'll look at doing something. And if we can't deliver it directly, we'll put it on somebody who will.
Okay.
In terms of general house security, I know where I am, we've just had some cameras put up, and everyone's got their own sort of thoughts on home security. Again, it's just one of those where just sort of this time of year is a good time to think about, do you need additional lighting? I know there's a cost of living thing, so maybe have a one with a sensor that comes on when you get activity near to it. you know, and also trimming back bushes that might have overgrown and just create a bit of a gap, you know, for something to hide behind. You know, we do see as a percentage more crime around property crime, you know, around burglary. So again, it's just you looking at your own environment. You know, there are things online to help advise you about how to be safe and how to, you know, think about what you can do. You know, I put prickly bushes near some of my windows, so it's not a nice place to go in. But it's about, you know, what you can do. You know, do you park your car in the garage? You know, can you park your car in the garage? Do you put a steering lock on it? I've got a keyless car. I put both my keys, that's my spare key and my normal key, in a Faraday bag. But I'd still really prefer to put a steering lock on it as well. But like many people, that's inconvenient to me, because then every time I get in it, I've got to take it off. So I know practically, you know, we have this comfort element of keyless entry, which makes cars more attractive to buy. They look quite cool, you just walk up to it and open it, but then it's easier to steal. And in particular, the other ones I will highlight, if you drive a Range Rover, I know a 4 that went last week, and the current technology allows somebody with a laptop to come up, code the keys and drive it off. So that's how simple it can be. And I know of 4 jobs last week where Range Rovers went, so there's a particular security concern with those that I will highlight.
Right, okay. So we'll try and cover these two together. So, you know, the police initiatives to tackle antisocial behaviour, which also spills into knife crime, which we dealt with a bit. And also, how can the community try and safeguard themselves? What do we do as people?
Yeah. So for ASB, again, tell us. You know, if we've got problems, tell us. We'll always look at it. We'll always consider it. We'll always look at it as an area, not just a single location. If you're a repeat victim of ASB, then obviously we'll come to you, because we focus on repeat victims. But the main thing is we're data-led. So again, if we're told about it, whatever level of ASB it is, usually if we nip it in the bud early, Lindsay's brilliant, she'll do what's called an acceptable behaviour agreement, which basically will say to somebody, look, your behaviour is not acceptable, sort it out, otherwise we'll come down hard on you. And it works in a lot of cases. So we can nip ASB in the bud very, very quickly, and we do try and do that. We've seen some really positive trends on our ASB in the area. For the more serious stuff, again, usually for the aggravated style robberies, usually vehicles are targeted. So again, it's about considering your own security and what you've got. I spoke to somebody the other day who spent £1,000 on a tracking system, an immobilisation system, all sorts of things. It's a lot of money, but some people drive cars that are a lot of money. And sadly, in my job, I see people in a £50,000-60,000 car with next to no security on it. You know, so it's a personal thing. You know, if you want to protect your assets, you know, if you've got a mobile phone, you might insure it. Let's say with cars and property, you know, you might just go the extra step and get somebody in to advise you on security measures that you might choose to do. And again, there is stuff online that you can consider to look at. But as I say, aggravated robberies are very, very few and far between. I think about 1 in 6 months in South Trafford that I'm aware of. So as a percentage, it's a very, very small number.
Okay. Sorry, just one moment, because there's a question that had come through, which I think the gentleman is here. Khalid, is that you?
Yeah.
That's your question. Do you want to actually
Yeah,
forward
before
it?
we used to have, on a weekly basis, we used to have a traffic crime figure sent out, which you could share out on WhatsApp, which the neighbourhood watch. And it was a very good way of understanding what's going on in our area compared to others. You know, you could see the trend of what type of robbery it was and incidents it was. And I know before COVID, there was a system mismatch or upgrade going on. But it seems like that seems to, you thought an IT system bad in it, and it just is probably worse, but you thought the police had sorted it out by now.
I think it's well documented. We still have a slight system mismatch, but we do have a lot more confidence in the data that we're seeing coming through. I mentioned forum data led. The challenge with sharing data is what's happened, and what's happened locally is we share data and then people challenge it. So we then spend days unpicking the data and then answering somebody a question based on data we've given them. So we've stopped giving it out, basically, because just by sending out a newsletter, it generates a week's work. So it's just how people react to that information. It'd be great to stand there and say, yeah, I can give you a graph of what's going on in South Trafford. I've already raised for I get what we call a weekly accountability pack, so I can quote data, I can see data weekly. I'd love it if we have a community-focused one, like I wouldn't say a watered-down version, but one that we can share that's not restricted, that we can just say, look, there it all is, and then if you live in South Trafford, you click on South Trafford, and up pops your graphic, you know, like a plan on a page type of thing, you know, for South Trafford, gives you trends, a couple of graphs. I think that's in the capability of the teams, but it's not currently available. But for us to create that and do that on a rolling basis, it's just generated too much work, and I can't get the support from my support staff to do that because of their experience in doing that with the computers.
I understand, but I just think as a snapshot of any type of snapshot, it gives you an understanding of where you stand, what type of issues are out there, and how well you guys are doing. It's your message, you know, the other day, you're saying we've had, you know, in Trafford we had 40 burglaries over these areas compared to, say, central Manchester or wherever it is. We're doing well as a team, and you know what the success rates maybe of those are. It just gives you an ability to give your, you know, viewpoints, and it's shared amongst people, and people see that, because otherwise, I mean, for me, I don't personally go and look at all the websites and social media. You know, for you know, personal use, if something happens or someone tells me something, that's where I get my information from. I'm not searching for, you know, other areas or what's happening. If I hear it or read it, then I know about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have an idea. And you know, you're telling me your stats and your figures now, and that's the first time I'm seeing something like that. So I think most people would be here, but it's just, I think it's an easy way from a policing perspective.
I absolutely agree with you. I agree with you. I love data myself. I'd love to be able to share it more freely. Currently we can't. We are using it differently internally, which is good. I think that's the first step. So we have confidence in our data. And then I think the next step then is creating that package, maybe something for Joe and the IAG, really. You know, that we create a package that force-wise, because for me it's a force problem. I can't just promise it for South Trafford. I'd love to, because I live in South Trafford. But you know, I think force-wise, that any resident in Greater Manchester can click on where they live and get a snapshot of what's going on. You know, but what we find is that if we give some information, people ask us more bespoke questions, and then that just generates a whole heap of work. Because the broader sense of crime, you know, we talk about those four main areas that we look at, and ASB and other things. But you know, there's probably 50, 60, maybe 100 different categories of crime. So what is important to one person when they ask that question, we're then forced into a position of having to respond to it, which, you know, we're not.
You don't want to be answering everyone's questions. You want to get a snapshot, and that's what I'd say. I'd like to see a snapshot. Everyone has different views, and I imagine, you know, from a headcount point of view, I do understand that, but I think there's a message to take back.
I don't know if anyone's heard of Police UK, the website that's out there. And this goes back to what Mr. Bryant was saying about the mismatch in data systems. We are the only force, I believe, that do not submit any data to Police UK. I'll give you an example. I was looking to move house 18 months ago. I thought, well, what the crime figures are like in Altrincham. And I looked, and according to that particular site, there was no crime at all. And I found out it's because of the data mismatch. But that would normally be populated. So if you went to another force area in Merseyside, Cheshire, you could look on your postcode and it would tell you what's happened in that area for the last month and the months in that previous 12 months. And I think that would be a benefit, but things are moving on and things are getting better. And if we do get a new system, which I think is coming at some point, the Chief has already said that's going to happen, that's in the public domain, that system will be able to feed the information into that particular website. And I think that would be a benefit to everybody.
Yeah, I think that was one of my points I was going to make, is, you know, I think I remember seeing on Rightmove or Zillow, you could have a look at your postcode and they give you crime figures. So I wasn't sure where that figure came from, but obviously from you saying, as you mentioned, it's not part of Greater Manchester.
Well, we can't give them the data so at the moment. It's there for us, but it's not there for that particular.
When we receive the data, and again, I want to be confident in that data. So I can look at sheets of data, and for example, it might be a collision report I'm looking at, but there'll be a domestic report in the data. So we've just got a real mess with some of the back office systems. That's just being really honest. It's in the public domain. The Chief's already committed to getting a new computer system. I know that's ongoing. It'll be a year or so, I would guess, before that's going to come. But for us to work through that is so time consuming. I mean, I know I provided some overview figures for burglaries and things, and I can talk certain numbers. But to put it out, I could say there's only been 3 burglaries in Hale, for example, and then I'll have somebody say to me, there's 5 last week on my road. It's that sort of problem, and that's where we get that challenge, and it causes that additional
I
workload.
understand. I mean, you're aware of it, so
Yeah,
you're raising the point.
yeah.
You've answered the point, so I do understand.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, just before yourself, there was a gentleman at the back who had a question.
I'm Rajat Kumar. You were talking about aggravated vehicle taking, and there have been 2 instances in West Midlands where I've come to know from my work colleagues where people are trying to sell their car privately, invited some people home, and their vehicles got taken quite violently. And West Midlands now offer a service where if you want to sell your car privately, you can do it in a car park or police station. Is that something that you are aware of? Is that something that you are looking at, or because that seems to be, because you would expect that the criminals will not come in a police station car park.
I can see a number of conflicts with that. And I think, you know, where people are privately selling a motor vehicle, I wouldn't want my team or myself to be seen to be brokering a deal or be involved in a deal, because obviously used car sales can go badly wrong on occasions, you know. So it's an interesting point that you raise. If you can get any additional information, I'd be happy to look at it. But I do have sort of front-loaded concerns about brokering a car exchange in a police car.
So this is not brokering it, you just seeing the car in a place where there are loads of CCTVs. You would expect a police station car park to have loads of CCTVs. It's just a thought, because I think whatever is coming north, it will come north eventually, this modus operandi, I suspect.
Yeah, if you can feed anything to Raheel, I'm happy to look at whatever their scheme is. But you know, there's a number of things. You know, how do we monitor that? How do we staff it? You know, there's thousands, tens of thousands of transactions for used cars every week. You know, so I'm just sort of thinking I've got a small team of maybe 10 people. You know, so it's a good point. You know, but luckily those numbers here are very, very low. But if we get some information, we'll look at it.
Thank you.
So Rajat, if you want to send us some information. Sorry, the lady over there. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, you talked about children being safe, looking after the children. What about older people when they're walking home from Altrincham, the centre of Altrincham, going home? Can you give any tips of how to feel safe? Because taxis are not easy to get at the moment.
Yeah, taxis are a challenge. You know, I know, so again, I live in the area, so occasionally it's difficult to get an Uber or whatever. So again, I think it's about understanding that generally our streets in South Trafford are pretty safe. Obviously, you know, how somebody would travel home, again, let's go back to our plan. You know, can we drive, you know, or can we arrange a lift, or what's our fallback? You know, so sometimes we can arrange that and plan it. You know, it's in terms of our, if we're going to walk, obviously wearing bright clothing. It's on an as required basis, because obviously everybody's got their own needs.
Just when you've got any ideas of feeling safer.
I'm just thinking the personal alarms, you're carrying one of those, you know, I mean, if you're carrying it, you know there's at least something by which you can attract attention or just shock the person.
Yes.
I think generally, you know, what we might tend to see, but not on a frequent basis, is people snatching bags or people taking phones.
Yeah.
So, you know, the youth that might come by on an electric scooter because you can't hear it, they're already on you, the phone's in your hand and they snatch it. So it's keeping, and I'd say the same to most people, is to, where possible, don't walk down the road on your phone. I know I do walk with my dog, but, you know, everybody's different, yeah. But even with headphones, people can be a target, you know. So it's about, you know, if you want to keep your property safe and you feeling safe, I suppose, you know, have a bag that maybe you can strap across your body, you know, is a bit easier than just holding something in your hand, and maybe just keeping your phone out of sight.
Because I'm not a nervous person, you see, but I am finding it a bit hard now. It's so dark,
Yeah.
and the roads are not, I mean, the pavements aren't good, you know.
Yeah, it's that time of year again, it's all like darker nights, and I know the local authority turned some of the lights off, some of them down, because obviously electric costs, you know, and obviously it's slippery as well. So I know there's problems, but I think it's that sort of keeping your bag safe, keeping things out of your hands where possible, and I think that can help.
Can you tell me what you've been talking about? Is it ASB or something? What is it?
Antisocial behaviour.
Right. I know we'll have more questions. Sorry, is it all right to hold you? Do you have questions?
Me?
Yeah.
No, just alerting this lady.
Oh, no,
trying.
I was aware of that. That's fine. Can we take some more questions later? Because, yeah, we will have another session later because I am aware we have 2 more sessions to get through and some more topics as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.